following program is a production of Pioneer Public Television.
I grew up in upstate New York. I was very privileged to get into the Eastman School of Music and spent 4.5 years there. And I taught in public schools in New York for 2.5 years. And I did my master's degree with Miles Oslin at the University of Kentucky. Then I moved to Los Angeles for 2 years.
Could we go upstage a little with the whole group?
So something along these lines. Were you thinking of doing one mic?
I'm gonna do 5.
5?
Yep.
But both of our families are from New York, so we really wanted to be back on the East Coast. And I taught in Massachusetts for 3 years. I moved back down to Kentucky where my wife and I did our doctorates. This position opened up here, and I moved up to Minnesota. Now I live in Alexandria, and I teach at the University of Minnesota Morris.
Well, here on Postcards, we're telling stories of the people of Western Minnesota, their art, their history, their cultural heritage. We wanted to see if we could find some original music for our show. Our search wound up here at the University of Minnesota Morris, and a really great jazz instructor, Joseph Carucci. Joe, we're at his office right now. Joe helped us make some original music for the show. Nice to meet you again.
Welcome, Eric.
Thanks.
My pleasure.
And thank you for creating the Postcards theme.
My pleasure. It was really fun. Fun to put it together.
Well, Joe, this is really an amazing process for the uninitiated, like myself. And we had a discussion and emails back and forth about a song for the show where I gave you a bunch of words, art, history, culture, subject matter, what the show was going to be about, farming, agriculture. And from these words, you came up with a melody.
Sure.
And a wonderful theme. I'm wondering, what is that process like? How did that happen?
Gosh, well, I took a good handful of those words. I think the one that ended up being the catchiest was the wandering, was what we ended up really using. But I think I created about 4 or 5 different scenarios of melodies that could be used. Some with a little bit of a jazzier feel, like a ragtime thing. Some that were a little more thinking of a little bit more of a working theme, and the wandering kind of just walking around the fields kind of idea was really what I ended up going with. And then it was just about taking some little snippets of that melody, and it's almost not a through composed melody. It's really just snippets of all of these different ideas that we had that is based around this wandering theme.
We talked about environment and
Yep.
other things like that. So are you concentrating on those words, or is it when you're not thinking about it that your talent comes in and brings you melody?
Sure. I think a lot of my compositions in general have a very literary source of inspiration, or nature is very big. And so what I do is I think about that. It's almost a meditative process. And then I just try to internalize those thoughts and sounds and see what comes out musically that I can come up with that, to me, represents those feelings. Because my piano skills are limited, I'll put them on the computer and I'll just type them in, and then I can tweak it a little bit, or were my ears okay and did the counterpoint work itself out the way I thought it would.
When you first bring out the melody,
Yep.
There's a third there that I don't think you need.
Sure, so bring that in when I go boo-da-doo-doo-da-doo.
Yeah.
Cool. Was this measure was about 20 seconds.
Okay.
It was a great time, and actually you came out with some wonderful suggestions as we went. Maybe we could start a little bit sparser and then build into that, and it's just fun to edit it and see what comes out in the long run. It's a snippet of a lot of different smaller melodies building into a little climax. I'm a saxophonist first, so a lot of times I'll just sit down with the saxophonist, I'll improvise for a little while, and then I'll notate what I just played, snippets of what I played, then try to let it grow from there. And I tend to, when I do it that way, I don't use the computer as much, and I come back later and I put it on the computer so that there's something that's a little bit easier for them to play. Just starts with a little counter line. It actually starts with a little counter line to the bass line. And then a little counter line to the second half of the flute. it starts off with a bass line, and the bass line to me in the woodwind quintet is pretty naturally the bassoon, just being on the bottom, the lowest instrument out of them, and then the timbre of the bassoon is pretty quirky in itself, so just sits down there on the bottom, and I thought that was a good one to come out of the longer notes. I wanted to make sure I brought in a brass sound with the horn at some point, and so I kind of trade there. The clarinet's playing the line. And then the horn comes in, and you don't want to hear me play the horn. Nobody wants to hear me play the horn. So the horn just takes that over so that the clarinet then can take on the counter melody with the flute. I actually have this blown up, what turned into about a 5-minute suite for a woodwind quintet that I may end up putting for a sax quintet too at some point. You never know.
So we might be on a stage somewhere?
You never, yeah, exactly, yep. It was just a source of inspiration, and as I went, I tweaked it to try to meet what I thought first your suggestions were, and on top of that, you had some great visuals as we went, which kept changing what I was seeing and what I was hearing in my head as I went, and so it morphed into what it is now. So we have Christine playing bassoon. This is Rachel playing French horn. Denise playing oboe, and Jean playing the flute today. Postcards should be more legato. It's going to kind of build to somewhere around the 9th bar. Oh, it was a blast. I love to compose. I live up in Alexandria, and I drive here every day. It's beautiful to see the landscape, and it's very inspiring to see all the nature, the deer and the bald eagles, and so it was really fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. We'll just do a couple more just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3.
Well, we're so proud, Joe, that you're a part of our show, and thank you very much for your work.
Thanks. It's my pleasure. It's been an honor to be involved. All right, so thank you very much. Appreciate it.